yes.
All right, good morning, everyone. Here we find ourselves, Kenneth and Greg and Bree, and there's going to be more coming on board on Sunday, March 26th for our 70th recorded Zoom call for psychiatricsobriety.com. I'm really excited for this morning's Zoom call. Bree and I had a 5-minute, she came on board 5 minutes before I started this recording, and the topic found us. So let me get this whole introduction out of the way, and we're gonna go forward with this topic. All right, these Zoom calls are being recorded for 1 hour. Psychiatricsobriety.com is our ministry. It's our ministry because we are a group of courageous souls who have chosen to exit psychiatry and permeate the veils of mental illness. Or even better said, most of us have been on psych meds, benzodiazepines, all the psychiatric, pharmacopoeia, and we have courageously, or are courageously, surrendering that model and that belief system, and we're replacing it with something much more evolved and much truer. To do that, I did that because I was 25 years on just handfuls of pills, all prescribed legally from qualified, well-meaning, and very good doctors who all said, you're going to be on these pills for the rest of your life. Most of them did, because no one knew how to help me get off of them, including benzodiazepines. So by the grace of God, I was able to emerge from that story and write a new one. And my extension and my gift to the world is to be present and offer support for others who would like to write a new story, just like I did. These calls are free, although I do accept donations. They're every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is 12 noon Eastern time. So you can tell I'm a little bit ADHD, so my topics don't always go linear. But linear is how I got mentally ill. Not loving my own ADHD is how I got mentally ill. I got mentally ill because I was trying to fit in. I got mentally ill for many reasons. I got mentally ill because I had grievances. I got mentally ill because, let's go down the list. Well, grievances. I got mentally ill because I didn't know how to grieve. And that's going to be the topic. Well, I'd like it to be the topic of this morning's Zoom call. Bree and I were talking for 5 minutes about grief. And boy, oh boy, when I surrendered those pharmaceuticals, the gift of grief found this man. All that bottled up grief it's true, they put me on those pills for a reason. I did have ADHD, I did have bipolar, I did have schizophrenia. But under all that, it was just a reservoir of grief that needed to come out. And it needed to be angry, and it needed to cry. It needed to be held. It needed to be seen. It needed to be heard. And it needed to heal. So that's what we do here on Sunday mornings. A few disclaimers. Listen, folks, remember, I'm going to record this to YouTube for an hour. This is not about getting off pills. I do not tell anybody they should get off pills. That is way outside of our scope. We don't know what's best for you. We have chosen to. That's simply the disclaimer that I have to put in for harm reduction purposes. Okay, so it's Zoom call number 70. Chris is on board. The Healer's Prayer, it's a ministry because it was the grace that emerged this man. Truly, I had to get on my knees and say, what I'm doing is not working. And I had to ask for help. And boy, did the help arrive. So in order to stay in integrity, I'm going to start this off with a prayer. It's called the Healer's Prayer, and it comes directly from the Course in Miracles. And it said, I don't have it in front of me. Does anybody know the Healer's Prayer? Yeah, well, here it goes. We are here only to be truly helpful. We are here to represent him or her who sent us, so we do not have to worry about what to say or what to do. Or something like that. There's the Healer's Prayer. All right. Greg, Miss Bree, or Bree, and Chris. Bree, let's pick up where we left off. Let's talk about grief. Like I said in the introduction, it was all that bottled up grief that I didn't know how to feel it. And you're feeling it. You were sharing with me something very beautiful that you're going through, and also you've come off of a benzo like the rest of us. Bree, I'm sorry to interrupt you with a 5-minute introduction, but just keep going because that was beautiful.
Yeah, so going to my grandma's funeral and stuff, it brought a lot of feelings. it it made me real, because she was Catholic, so we had to be in a Catholic church. It just made me realize, that my faith wasn't as intact as I thought it was, and that I have some more work to do. So I'm going back to the drawing board, and then, with grief, I have all these feelings, fear, anxiety, paranoia, just, overstimulation, just so many different things that I woke up with today, now that I'm finally home. And I'm like, just thinking, okay, where do I go from here? What do I do to help myself heal healthy in a healthy way? My mom, she had a blood clot back in 2020, and she almost lost her life to it. So when she got home Friday, she had a really bad Charlie horse, and right away she panicked and ran straight to the emergency room. And, it just like triggered something in me, like, we live our life in fear every single day, and like my auntie that passed away before my grandma, she passed away 4 months ago. She had a heart attack. So every time I felt like some little pain, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having a heart attack. And, I had to sit back and realize that grief really sucks. And it, like, healing is not linear. Like, that's one thing I've had to learn in this journey is I could feel great for a month and then fall on my butt in a matter of seconds. So it's rough, it's rough. And like grief is just one of those things that, some people do it and some people choose not to do it. But I have kids, so I have to do it.
God, that is so beautiful. You have no idea. I wish you were sitting in my seat to just, I feel like a proud parent, Bree. To be able to host a Zoom call where somebody is so courageously sharing, what their process looks like. And like I said to you before I even began the introduction, if I had known, I always do this to you guys, if I had known that when I was your age, I wouldn't have taken all those pills. I want to get back to you, but we do have a newcomer, Kathy. My name is Kenneth Price, and I host these Zoom calls everyone's waving at you. Hi, Kathy. I host these Zoom calls every Monday, every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time. I don't know how you have found me. I don't know if you know my gist. This is being recorded for the next hour because these are such valuable conversations. But I started a ministry a year and a half ago called Psychiatric Sobriety because I came off of mountains of pills. And they also, all the doctors, everyone said I was mentally ill. Well, I challenged that. I popped out the other side, and I just am thrilled to be able to host these Zoom calls, every Sunday morning. So if you feel like sharing, we're here for you. Anything's fair game here. I don't have any specific outline. I have some general suggestions. If you're coming off pills, please, we'll kind of try and stay above the symptoms, but generally I like to give people an opportunity to express. So if you feel like jumping in, I want to give priority to the newcomer.
We've been communicating in Messenger. It's Katharina.
Oh,
Katharina.
Oh, hi. Okay.
Hi.
I got so full of my head. I spoke with you in the bus station, didn't I?
Bus station? No. Just through Messenger. I'm in Canada.
Okay. All right.
Does my screen look funky to you?
Yeah.
Very funky.
Yeah,
I kind of like it,
interesting.
but
Yeah, you're
Crazy.
glitching in and out.
Okay, I think I'm gonna. Oh, there. Okay.
There, you're back.
I have nothing to share at this moment.
that's fine. Just by coming
I have
on your
a lot, but
supporting
I'm just not ready.
That's beautiful. Thank you for being honest. Just by coming on, you're supporting this work that we're doing. It coming off of, in my story, coming off of those medications, boy. What we like, what Bree was doing, and Chris has said this before, all this backlog of feelings comes out. It's kind of like, a dam that bursts, but it restores the natural flow to the river itself. And if I can be play any contribution in being present while other people get their natural flow restored. It's an honor and a privilege. That's the way I saw it when I, but when I finally realized that I was restored to, like they say in the 12 steps, restored to sanity. It was like, wow. I can understand why we took those pills. This is a lot of those pills. It's not a black or white. They saved my life as a young man.
Yeah, they definitely do at that point in your life. But I mean, the damage that they've done, it's, sometimes it feels, like it's irreparable, and I kind of had a little brain fart of what I was getting. My point, of my mom going back to the hospital was she was having a panic attack. She was in straight up anxiety, panic mode, like freaking out. And right away, the doctor was like, "Oh, I could give you some Ativan." And, she told me, she's like, "I almost took it." She's like, "But I asked for hydroxyzine instead." Which, I mean, I take hydroxyzine as needed, for like anxiety and to sleep and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's not a huge deal, but doctors are just so like, "Here, let me give you some more meds," because they want to keep us sick.
Well, let's back up a little bit. This is why I have a very difficult role to play here, because like when I went to have my tooth pulled, thank goodness they gave me a benzodiazepine. Because it allowed me to sit still long enough so they could yank the thing out of my mouth. So we have a very difficult assignment here to it's very easy to want to say, there should not be benzodiazepines, but it's ours to keep it in the I form and understand that it was our decision to surrender our pills.
And I get that. And I don't mean like nobody should ever take it. I don't mean that, I'm against doctors, but I do feel that, like for my mom, she could have calmed down from an anxiety attack. She wasn't having a seizure that required her to, have some kind of benzo to help her, not seize or something like that. There's different ways. It's always like, let's go to the most extreme way to handle it. And that's where I'm like, okay, it doesn't have to get to that point, and I just think like for me, counselor, he's always canceling my, our meetings or whatever. I think he's going through some stuff himself, but it's like, counseling and therapy is so hard to get into nowadays. Like you have to wait a month just to see a counselor, and so like I have a huge tool bag of, stuff I can do when I have an anxiety attack. But it's like, it's like I told my mom, like, did you, try and breathe? Did you try and calm down? You will never get a doctor. Well, I can't say never, but most of the time you will not get a doctor that says, hey, sit back and take a breath. You're okay. They don't reassure you that, hey, I got you. Up here in, New Mexico, they don't, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But, I really have a problem. Every time I've been to the ER, they're like, "Hey, I'll give you a benzo." And it's so easily accessed that it's like, well, I could take it and I'll calm down and I'll feel good for a little while and life could be okay again. But I don't know. I have a hard time.
I got to share with you what I'm hearing from this, and it excites me because this is an indication, and I've told you this before, Bree, that you are going to start a solution or now. I mean, we can definitely define the problem, but the next step is I can't wait to see the solution that you bring into our world. I told you before, we've had this conversation. You're going to be bringing solutions into this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing, Bree. Like, I totally hear what you're saying, and I've felt similarly, but I can't help but think like that you're just processing some anger. I feel like that's such a big part of this is coming off. And then once you start to realize what happened to you, there's anger at the system, anger at the doctors, the miseducation, the uneducation. But also, there's we can get angry, at ourselves even for at one point wanting these pills or believing they were the answer, or every time I see a commercial now on TV, ask your doctor about this. I think
Right.
man, it's all of us participating in this. That maybe if we were going to point fingers, I think we got to point fingers at everybody.
Right.
But what I like about this group is ultimately it's like, okay, what can we do, to take responsibility for ourselves and what happened to us. But the anger is part of it. I mean, I was just talking to a family member yesterday, and they said they're dealing with a lot of anxiety and some a lot of issues in their life, and they said, I think I'm going to try a low dose of Prozac. And I just had to tell them, I was like, I'm probably the worst person to talk to about going on psych drugs, but we had a pretty good conversation about it. And ultimately I realized, like, everyone's kind of on their own journey of figuring this stuff out.
Yeah.
And I can't convince this person to
Right.
not do that. And who am I to say they shouldn't? I mean, I don't know. Ultimately, like personally, my journey, I went on those pills. I was on Paxil, this antidepressant, for decades. And then ultimately, had horrific experiences and then went through and I'm still kind of going through withdrawal. But I don't think I can convince someone else to listen to what I've learned. And then they go, okay, I won't go down that path. I think some of us just have to go down that path. And it's like, okay, it might be a bumpy road. And ultimately you'll probably land, back where you are, or who knows. It's not my place to predict the future. But anyway, I just want to say, I hear what you're saying. I think just anger is a big part of coming off this stuff.
Most definitely, and I've been off for like a year and a half. I'll be off 2 years in July, and I still struggle, and I was on, for what I consider a low dose. The most I ever took at one time was 1 milligram of Klonopin. And I didn't take that very often. A majority of the time I was breaking a 0.5 pill into 4s and taking a little bit at a time. It was never to the point of, hey, let's abuse it or anything. It was to the point of, I need some relief now because I'm about to jump out of my body. And I was only on it for 6 months total. And that included, jumping off twice and then properly tapering, which was considered a fast taper still. But it's just so crazy because I had my son in October of 2020, and by January of 2021, I had already been into a psych ward because I wanted to go there, of course. I was like, okay, if I go to this place, I can probably get help and all that. I mean, it traumatized me because I've never even been to jail. I mean, I never even got a pink slip in school. So I was like, what the heck am I doing here? I'm wearing paper scrubs, like I'm locked in. And, so it just like, it's like PTSD, it's just all tied into like that pill. So yeah, I do have.
And I'm still, I'm going to still springboard back to my first assertion, Bree, that you are going to take this shit and you're going to turn it into fertilizer. For you to come onto this call, what you were on was a fraction of what I was on. And if I can turn this shit into fertilizer, I can't wait to see what you're going to do with it. We got one more. I want to give time to the newcomers. Heather, my name is Kenneth Price. It's great to have you on board. Everyone's giving their wave. I don't know how you found us, but I give a general introduction to all the newcomers. I began this ministry a year and a half ago. I call it psychiatricsobriety.com. We've got 6 people. Well, myself is total 6. We come here once a week, 9 a.m. Pacific time on Sundays, and we unwind ourselves, whatever needs to be unwound. Most of us have been on pills. I was on pills. I'm no longer on pills. I emerged from all that. So I host these every Sunday morning. Generally, Heather, I try and steer it away from the symptom talk. And they are being recorded for YouTube. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, share what's going on, or if not, you can just listen. I don't have any real specific formats or outlines.
Okay, I'm Heather, and I'm actually
Heather.
10 months off of benzodiazepines today. But I still have a lot of a difficult time with a bunch of stuff.
Heather, thank you for coming on board, and thank you for loving yourself so much to choose life and to choose to find, you know, a road beyond pharmacology. Heather, I was the reason I do this is because I was on high levels, you know, in my you know, on my 40th birthday, the doctor, you know, wrote a prescription for the medication K, and I know what it takes to come off of it. And, you know, because that was way back in my story, I was just, if you look at my YouTube channel, you'll see my story. But I will just offer experience, strength, and hope for anybody who holds out their hand, you know, because I know it's possible. And I want to put a fire hose over all those fear-based narratives, which is something I didn't want recorded this morning. There's a lot of fear-based narratives that are going around, you know, and someone in anxiety is going to, you know, they're either going to listen to a fear-based narrative or they're going to generate their own. And if there's a contribution I can make, it's to unwind the fear-based narratives. And I think everyone knows the fear-based narratives we're talking about. You know, I've been damaged. You know, that's the first one I want to put a fire extinguisher to. So in any way we can be supportive, my website or my YouTube channel or anything, you know, God bless.
Yeah, you know, Kenneth, that's what I remember watching one of your first videos when you posted. What was that, like early fall of 21, I think. I was on vacation actually and really struggling with just starting to come off of Paxil, and you know, the idea of I forget exactly how you worded it, but you know, you have not been damaged because who you truly are cannot be damaged. And that brought me such relief, because I think when we're on these pills, or especially when we're coming off, you really do feel so damaged. And hearing that was such a helpful way to separate the two things that were happening, right? Who you really are, and your soul and your heart, and who you are as a person, that stays intact. Other parts of you may be temporary damage, because you're certainly feeling this. You're not feeling yourself in any ways, but it allowed me to try and trust that I would heal, that part of me that was so affected would eventually return. And I'm so glad to be seeing that. You know, it's very slow, but coming to groups like this, or talking to other supportive folks who have, you know, gone through any kind of psych drug withdrawal, it really helped give me like a North Star to be like, okay, I don't feel myself at all, and I feel so broken, but there's these other people that they've made it through. You know, Kenneth, you call it the dark forest. You know, they made it through this really dark period, and it just gave me faith and some trust and some hope that eventually, given enough time, you know, I would be there too. And I really am starting to see it in my life. And like Greg, you know, I feel like you and I have kind of been healing together, and it's awesome to see your progress. And that's why I want to keep showing up to this, because it's like, man, there's hope. There is healing that can happen.
I'm glad. Thank you, Chris. You know, it's actually, Chris, this ministry is, well, if this ministry is because of you and Greg and Bree. I mean, you guys are supporting me in this ministry, but I thank you, because I want to bring that up real briefly, because we've got Kathy and we've got Heather on board. And just to remind you, one of the things that promulgated me to begin all of this formally, I've been doing it for many, many years, but formally to put together a website and YouTube and Zoom, was because of that one single narrative. And it's a narrative that it's simply not true. I've been damaged. And I you know, poor Cindy Snow is in that benzo recovery, you know, Facebook moderator. And I talked to her, she goes, I'm busier than one on paper hanger, you know, and I said, Cindy, I realized I can't do what she does, because she's more on the nutrition aspect, but I've got a spiritual component which must go in and perform triage. When I realized that, I mean, I had, you know, when I was coming off those pills, I had actually started to believe in that narrative too. And I had a Unity minister who come in and says that, and just put an end to that specific narrative. That specific narrative will put a person into protraction. And that's another word that's just flying around. So I'm grateful, Chris, that video found you, and you've supported me in that narrative, because it was very frightening for me at first to state that, because I was still a little bit teetering with some doubt thoughts, thinking, what's the backlash going to be from the from the allopathic doctors, or the global elite, if they find out that I'm making such a bold assertion. But when others like you came on board, who solidified that it was helpful, I realized that we had to anchor that one single truth, because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to think that brain chemistry is something to be frightened of. Mm-hmm. Now, when we're coming off these myths, we have fear no matter what. But as the clouds began to part, as I began to emerge, I realized I was frightened of my own brain chemistry. It'd be like frightened if it was an unnecessary fear. And now that I get to, show the face of someone who's, fully functional, you're all fully functional, but some of us have trouble believing it. But, I get to support this higher truth. I get kind of winded. Who wants to go next? Greg, how you been? But you got to unmute yourself. I muted you because I wanted Chris to get full coverage. I can unmute you if you want.
Well, I got it.
There you go.
I just wanted to, I won't preach to y'all too much. I wanted to preach for a second there.
Well, why not? I did everyone else.
Yeah, well, let me see. Well, I guess just one thing I was thinking is, have y'all ever heard of Gabor Mate? Yeah, okay. Everybody, you too, Heather? Oh man, he's good. I found him, and he's talking about, how society should, oh, he's got it. That it's our society that's making us sick. And it's just so common now for people to have trauma and addictions. And we know that that's how our culture is. He's pointed out that's how our culture is, it is developed. And there's some very good psychologists that just promote it. And, in advertising and food and all this stuff. And, he points out that some cultures, they welcome in illness, and they welcome in people who've had trauma. And I think that's the big difference, is the social perspective. Our society is making us sick, and that what we ultimately have to do is we have to find our own resources to make us well, because they are very few and far between. We've got to find these, these thinkers and these people who have answers, because there's just not many. You just have to dig deeper, and you have to be resourceful, I think is the word. We have to be resourceful to find these sort of these avenues of healing. I mean, and
Greg, if I could jump in real quick,
yeah.
if it hadn't have been for, now remember, I'm Mr. Reframe. I'm not Pollyanna, positive thinker, but I am Mr. Reframe, because remember, on the left hand, everything is going to hell in a handbasket, but but that's how change is created. Yeah, right. If it hadn't have been for that hell in a handbasket, I would never start a ministry. Hell no, why would I start a ministry? No, it's because there was a nature abhors a vacuum. So you're right on track with Gabor Mate. As a matter of fact, I'm so thrilled that you brought him into the Zoom call. He's one of the trailblazers who helped me emerge from mine. So he understands that things are falling apart with the left hand in order for something brand new to come forward. So you have just added something very valuable to the Zoom call. I cannot thank you enough for bringing him into this. I want people to know about it.
He just gets it, and he gives that clarity, and that. Yeah, I think he knows the problem, but I think he's doing the solution too.
Exactly. He's got
not
the
completely
problem.
Negative.
No, that's it. We can't say there's no problem. All right.
Right,
We can't just
right.
like, everything's fine. No, it's not fine. But what I love about him is he will outline it eloquently, because he's very, he's very intelligent.
Oh, yeah, he is. Yeah.
And then he offers us the solution. And so he's walking with us. So right on, brother. Good work.
And I
Yeah,
like,
isn't his big thing, instead of like our society asks of people what's wrong with you, and his whole thing is we need to ask what happened to you.
right. That's
And
your
it's like,
your thing too, Chris.
I
pick up on
just
that
heard
all
him
the
say
time.
it. Yeah, I think it's great because it's like it kind of reminds me of what you said, Bree. You were saying, it's like something happens in your life maybe that triggers a bunch of anxiety and fear, and if we're not looking at those feelings through that lens of like, oh, maybe this is coming up because of something happened to me. If we're looking at it through the lens of what's wrong with me, you'll be like, oh my God, I'm so messed up. Yeah, maybe I need to go to a doctor or a psych ward. And then you go there and they kind of reaffirm those fears. Yeah, wow, you're really messed up. And then you're in a psych ward and you're like, well, I'm in a psych ward. That must mean I'm messed up. It's like this, this constant kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. But to your point, Kenneth, yeah, it's like, it doesn't mean that there isn't a problem or there isn't pain or there isn't something causing that, but we're looking at it through totally the wrong lens. And it's a lens that kind of keeps you sick and keeps you stuck.
But yeah, basically, I think there's so much hope out there, and I won't preach too much, but it's just that, I would like to people to know that there are more resources, and I was thinking about, maybe, I don't know how I could do that, but everybody has their modality.
You can start promoting our
everybody has
ministry.
their hope.
There it is.
Huh?
Start promoting the ministry. Bring more people on the Zoom call. There's what you can do.
Yeah.
You've been with me long enough. Come on, Greg, help me out here.
What?
One thing I want to.
Yeah, you've been on board long enough. You can bring more people on the Zoom call.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I've talked to one person, but she goes to church at this time. But yeah, it just needs to be advertised, I think. And if we really knew what healthcare was, like that they don't know anything but really pills and procedures, we could be better consumers. It's not that, and that if we had the spiritual principles, if we had the spiritual principles in our healthcare system, it would be a better system, But
all right, so you and Bree are going to partner up for your own ministry. I want to get back to back to something that Chris. Sorry, I just stared us a little bit because we only got an hour.
I'm preaching. I know I'm preaching.
That's all right. I love you, Greg. I love you just the way you are. But you're right. No, I wanted to bring something back that Chris said. Chris, you're right. It is the lens through which we're perceiving this, and the meaning we're attaching to this. I'm bringing this straight back to the Course in Miracles. Beloved's not here, so I got to carry the Course in Miracles for this Sunday. Those are the two things that's one of the first lessons of the Course in Miracles, is we can state we don't know what this means. This has got to come back to a spiritual principle. All this withdrawal talk, if we go down, if we approach withdrawal from the old paradigm, it's going to go straight into protraction, folks. This need not be. We don't know what this means. We don't know what this is, and we are willing to be shown. That's why spirituality has got to be a component for anybody who's even considering exiting psychiatry. If you're considering going off your meds, I implore you, there has to be a spiritual foundation. That much I have to get preachy on that, because the basic premise, and Chris, you and I and all the rest of us have been on this call long enough to know the Course in Miracles. We don't know what this means. And it's not just the Course in Miracles. All major spiritual traditions say this, are all pointed, even religions, if you push aside all that fear nonsense, even religions say we don't know. And this is where it comes to faith. And this is where I can make a contribution. I can share my miracle stories. I can put my miracle stories on YouTube and put them in poorly edited books on a website, but I've got documented proof of miracles, and we need miracle stories. We've got to anchor faith We can do this. I did this. You know, Jody did this. You know, all you guys are doing it. You know, and we're gonna do it together. We can't do it alone. We've got to do it together.
Right.
See, I can preach too, Greg.
One thing I was going to point out,
Bree's turn.
go for it.
Okay. So one thing I did want to touch on that I've kind of realized lately is generational curses.
Mhm.
You know, from the time when I was a little girl, I can remember feeling anxiety. I can remember feeling depressed. I can remember feeling like, what is my purpose in this world? I can remember those feelings, you know, and my whole entire life, I went through my life wondering why my dad didn't love me, why he was so mean, why he was so bitter, why he was so angry. And it took me until very recently to realize that my dad never healed from trauma in his childhood, you know, and I'm 29 years old and I'm barely realizing that, you know, and so that kind of sealed something for me that I've held on to for so long, you know, and I was like, okay, so now I'm trying to heal from my own trauma so I don't pass that on to my children. You know, I watched this podcast by David Goggins, and he's deemed like the baddest mother effer in the world. You know, he was a CB and stuff like that. I mean, he went through some really hard times in his life, but he talks about how, you know, his dad used to beat the crap out of his mother and stuff, and how he found himself in a really, really dark place, and he had to sit back and think like, you know, what is all this that's coming to like the head, you know, what is this telling me? And it was, you know, generational curses that we carried on stuff from our parents, and, you know, it's turmoil, you know, it's just more and more and more. And I was like, holy moly, like I need to heal from, you know, my childhood, you know, from being abused and, you know, from sexual abuse, all the things that I've dealt with in my, you know, life. I need to heal. And so
Now, I want to invite you, Bree, to just. This is so beautiful. You all are just. You don't know how much you light it up. I have to offer a little bit of advice. A little bit. Just be kind and gentle with it. Be kind and gentle, please. That's all I'm going to say. I cut you off.
That's okay.
If I can offer 56-year-old women, almost 56 next week, is that yes, I cannot agree with you more. I just have to kind and gentle, patience. I guarantee. Bree, I've got a crystal ball. I guarantee all of this stuff will resolve in your story. I know you well enough by now. It's all going to resolve. It's going to resolve perfectly. As a matter of fact, you're going to be thankful for it. I just want you to. I want that miracle to find you sooner. You know, the role of an elder is to want the generation, you know, the next generation to get this sooner. So. You know, we're all so eager. I want to heal it. And I'm just here to say it's already been healed on your timeline. You know, and all these, you know, very advanced spiritual teachers, which I'm not, by the way, explain how do we do it?
Yeah.
We get present.
Yeah.
You see, the thing is, healing is so simple that it eludes most of us, including this man. That's why I'm starting this. You know, that's why I'm doing this group. Healing happens right now.
Wow, that's good.
As soon you know, as soon as I open my mouth, I'm back on the timeline. But ultimately, if we could just sit here in silence for 1 hour, we would all pop out of it. You know,
That's what
very quickly.
Yeah.
You know, my way.
I know
has been
there's no precedent for the present moment up here. The present moment thinks healing is very complicated, and that's what's, you know, obviously that's what's fueling the world we live in. But I guarantee everyone, and that's where I can use my face and my testimony. I guarantee that it's really quite simple. It's not easy, so we come together and we do it together. But it's true. Healing is okay. It's your turn, Bree. I cut you off.
No, that's okay. You know, one thing that I've had to realize is that fear feeds fear. And when I feel fear, I'm like, okay, let's just stay at home and let's not do anything and let's stay in our bed because that is where it's comfortable. And lately I have been pushing myself out of my comfort zone so much. And, you know, the next day I'll have like a really down day. Like today, I'm kind of having a down day. Yesterday, I went to the swap meet, took my kids to the zoo. You know, we did all kinds of stuff, was around a lot of people. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't like this, but I'm going to do it. The same for my grandma's services. You know, they're like, okay, well, we need you to get up and read something from the Bible, like in front of like 200 people. I was like, oh, heck no, like that. No, somebody's going to have to do it. And I was like, okay, you know what? Face your fear. Face your fear, Brianna. And I did. I got up there and I read it perfect. And then my mom, she didn't want to get up and read her. I mean, she had been crying. I mean, it was her mother, so I understand. And something in me was like, well, read it for her. So, you know, she's like, I'm not going to get up there and read my eulogy. I was like, I'll read it for you. And then I was like, oh, what did I just do? You know, I was like, oh, heck no. I was like, oh, can I take that back? And I got up there and I read her eulogy in front of these 200 people again. So, you know, instead of running away from what I'm afraid of, I run right to it and I face it.
Okay, and I'm glad
awesome,
I got
Bree.
that on recording. I want that documented. Thank you, Bree. Listen, there's another component to this. Is we've got to put ourselves out there. I don't know where Greg went, but I hope Greg watches this recording. We can't sit and wait to be healed. That's not going to work either. We've got to continue to, if it's possible, which is what I in my story. Perfect. You know, the voice inside, which is a negative looping mechanism, is going to give us all sorts of reasons why we need to wait to be healed. And I'm not one for waiting. I say we do what we can right now, and you documented it perfectly, Brianna. Thank you.
Yes. And
Greg, you missed it.
You know, I really did get that from you, because when I met you, I was very much in that I'm damaged. I'm never going to heal. I'm never going to be okay. I'm just going to sit right here until I heal. And when you were kind of like, you got to choose to get up and live every day. You got to choose to not want to be stuck right there. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to be stuck right there, because I have a son that's 2 years old. I have a daughter that's 8 years old. I don't want them to remember, you know, there was years that mom was not okay and we didn't go anywhere. We didn't do anything because she was sick. So even though I feel sick or I feel out of it some days, I still get up and I go. You know, I was withdrawing, or I was having horrendous withdrawals when I went to Disneyland. You know, we took our kids to Disneyland. You know, my dad almost passed away, and, you know, I was still going through it, but I was still living my life. And that's what I've always focused on is, yes, it feels awful and it feels ugly sometimes, but I'm still living and I'm still enjoying these things. Go ahead.
Well, you've heard me say it before. I'm very blunt when it comes to like a lot of spiritual words like prayer. Yeah. Prayer. Sometimes I just want to tear. I tore all my hair out. I was sick of hearing the word prayer, because you said a prayer. You said, I'm going to choose life and I'm going to take my kids to Disneyland. That is the prayer, because prayer is followed by action, and you took action steps. You took your kids to Disneyland. You prayed your fucking ass off. And I know you did. I know you. And it was answered. It is being answered. And that's part of my role too, is you know, I get to follow people, you know, over their recovery. And I get to see the answer to the prayer. So if you can't see it, I get to point it out.
Awesome.
I love this.
I keep living, you know, I really, even when I'm scared, I keep living and I keep going. You know, last year we went to Rocky Point, Mexico, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if I go off the deep end over there? I'm going to be stuck in Mexico, like all this crazy stuff. And it made me realize that, you know, even before I need to go to Walmart or to Target or wherever, I sit there and I'm like, I play the whole entire thing of what I think it'll be like in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what if I walk in and I get dizzy and just all this crazy shit. And I'm like, why are we doing that? You know, why are we? And, you know, so I still live in fear somewhat, but I stopped living in as much fear as I was living in. I mean, this year we're going to Mexico again for my 30th birthday in June. You know, we're going to a motorcycle rally in May. And, you know, I do have a little bit of fear. I'm like, okay, well, what if I don't feel good? What if this, but then I stopped saying, you know, all the what ifs. I'm like, you know what, when I get there, oh, sorry. Hold on, let me turn this off.
Does your shirt say struggle on it?
Wait, let her finish. She's on a roll. We'll get to you in a minute, Greg.
You know, I just tell myself, like, when I get there, I'm going to have an amazing time. And 90% of the time I do. It's like, I spend so much time worrying about how awful it could be, or maybe I'll feel my depersonalization at this point and I won't be able to enjoy it. And then it's like, I'm living way too far ahead of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm starting to just live in the moment and like, okay, you know what? If it's a hard time when I get there, I'll deal with it then, but I don't need to deal with it now. So I just
remember earlier, Bree, when I said you were going to start your own ministry. I even need to backtrack because that is your ministry right there, and that's the reason I record it. Just if you get somebody to do a cut and paste, you've just stated the what do you call it? The mission purpose of your ministry, because you said it. Thank you.
I felt like you, like, you know, I was like, he's living his life. He came off of more meds than I did. He came off of, you know, more just everything than I did. You know, I came off of one pill, you know, and it wasn't even a full pill. It was like a little quarter. You know, but I also was dealing with really bad postpartum and stuff like that. So that played a huge role in, you know, everything that I went through at the time when I came off of it. But I started to not focus on that. And that's where I'm really getting away from, you know, nowadays. Like, I'm like, okay, I went through that. It's over. I need to heal and I need to keep moving. And that's,
I guarantee you guys, I guarantee that if it's your decision to go in this direction, which everyone on the Zoom call has made that decision, there are two thought systems. Now, this new thought system that I'm introducing, and you know, obviously, if you've been on this Zoom call, you've heard Beloved just pounds this thought system away. But as we begin to surrender this old thought system, which is the one that's creating all these, it's the one that creates all the illness. I guarantee that this new thought system doesn't even contain words like illness anymore.
no.
Can you for a moment? And now this may be a very far stretch, but could you for a moment kind of try and visualize if you didn't have words to describe? I mean, what are all these vocabulary? You know, protraction is the first one. I mean, there are a lot of unique in the medically injured community. They come up with their own vocabulary. It's quite creative. But can you imagine if we did? They have. You know, I was in that medically injured community. You know, can you for a moment just try and visualize what it would be like if we didn't have words to describe, so therefore we couldn't put words to it.
Mm-hmm.
It would sit. What?
I don't think it would exist. I mean, had I not went out there into a benzo group, you know, people that were struggling and going through it, had I not went in there, I would have never known what protracted withdrawal was. I would have never known what kindling is. I would have never known what all these terms were. They would not exist. It wouldn't exist if we weren't so, you know, like, hey, let's put a label on everything. It wouldn't exist, you know. And Eric, you know, my partner, he reminds me all the time, you know, when I say, oh, I'm feeling out of it, I wonder if it was because I took Pepto-Bismol or because I took this. And he's like, why does everything have to have a reason? Why does everything have to have a label? Just keep going. You know, and I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have stayed out of those communities that are, you know, there to, you know, help you. It's like, you know, you get out there and you're like, okay, these are my symptoms. And everybody's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm 4 years out and those are my symptoms too. When I'm barely on 18 months and I'm like, oh shit, I got to deal with this for another 2.5 years. You know, we create a lot of our own misery by getting into that and letting that go into our minds. Like, you know, when I hit 18 months, I was like, oh shit, I feel like shit. I'm in protracted withdrawal. I would have never known what that meant. I would have never known that existed if I hadn't got on there. So it's, you go searching for it, you'll find it.
And if you didn't know that existed, then then the next phase, what you're already doing, Bree, is you start to go out. Yeah, maybe today I don't feel well, but without that restraint, without that constriction, we go out, and going out creates the wellness. For as much as we can descend, we can create our own descent, we can create our own ascent. So I'm thrilled, Bree. I can't wait to play back this recording. Now we are bringing in new age principles. I've been so heavily weighted towards spiritual principles, but you just brought in, and no, I didn't think you brought in, you channeled. I've told you, we talked about this. You're intuitive. You channeled a new age principle, the law of attraction, the correct use of the law of attraction. No, the law of attraction is not to get stuff. It's to discover what's truer than these disempowering narratives. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm thrilled. I can't think. Help me out with the title. We got about 8 minutes left.
Let's go with Kathy. Kathy wants to share. Go, Kathy.
Thank you. I find it hard to just like jump in when everybody's talking. Thank you so much. So just quickly, very, very, very emotional. So I was on meds for 30 years, everything. I was given benzos in my late teens. And really, I remember we moved out of our area. I didn't have any friends. I was lonely. And that's why I was brought to the hospital. And anyway, so that's when it all started. And now I've been off, and I've been trying to get off for like 15 friggin' years. But now I'm finally off. It's been a year, and it's the same feeling. It's like there's that loneliness, but now there's like 30 years of extra trauma, on top of all the childhood trauma. And I'm just overwhelmed. I don't know what to do with all this. I don't have someone. Anyway, it's just right now, it's just utter loneliness and isolation. And I don't know how to get out of it. I've tried, like, just, a few months ago, I got a job, and then that all blew up. And anyway, I'm back to, the loneliness never left, but it's like, wow, now I guess it's bigger than it ever was. And I don't know. I'm just tired of feeling lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And all my trauma and whatever dictates that this is the way it's supposed to be, because I don't know, maybe this is all I know, or I deserve it, all these stupid critical messages. It just freaks me out. It freaks me out because all of a sudden I'm waking up, after 35 years of being medicated, and like, who am I and where the hell is my life? Mm-hmm. So all I really feel is fear and anger. Really. Yeah, sadness and grief, but like there's so much that it just turns into fear and anger. Yeah. Anyway,
the one thing I will tell you is don't claim it. Don't sit there and say my depression, my anxiety, my fear, because then that becomes your reality, and I know that because I've done that for 29 years of my life, where that it's my depression, it's my anxiety. And it's like, no, I'm not going to let it claim me like that. So I say, it's there, but it's not mine, and I felt lonely at one point too. And, that was when I found myself the most, is just finding out who I am and where I'm supposed to be in my life. I felt isolated, and, I sat back and I thought, well, why do I feel isolated? Well, maybe it's because I stay in my house 24/7, and that's exactly what I am. I'm isolated. So I started to get out and I started to live. I started to be with everybody else. At first it felt weird going into public. I felt like an outsider. Like everybody was living their life and I was just struggling and I was existing. And I was like at one point it even felt weird being a mother. I was like, I don't feel like I can be a mother. I felt like I needed a babysitter for me and my children, and it's just all this fear that we have. And it's like, just we have to let go, because we are capable of so much. We're beautiful humans that are capable of doing so much in life if we just let go of that fear.
I want to, if I can jump in, because we only got a few minutes left. I want to add something to this for Kathy and with Kathy, is to share with you, Kathy. I'm walking through this with you. I even want to go further and invite you. Let's talk one-on-one again. This is powerful material, and this powerful material is what I don't have credentials in psychology, life coaching. I'm not even a credentialed minister, but I just want to share with you, Kathy, that I heard you loud and clear. I heard every word you said, and I know the rest of us did too.
Can I ask you, Kathy?
I want to share with you before. Greg, can we just a little minute? But I also want to share with you, Kathy, what I know to be true about you. I can't not see it in somebody who's walked the same path as me. What's truer than all this? And then I just want to follow it up by saying thank you. Thank you for choosing life, because I know how difficult it is. I do know. I know the loneliness. I'm not some new age Pollyanna, throw out a remedy, As a matter of fact, those are just, you've heard me, say a few choice words about some of the new age movements. I heard it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Kathy.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.
I think it's helpful to come to groups like this and open up. It's really hard. It's really brave of you to be so vulnerable. And, I think hopefully, if anything, it shows you that you're not alone, coming to a group like this and being able to share hurt and share those feelings. And, I don't know about you. Sometimes I fear judgment, but oftentimes what I receive is, a lot of empathy and a lot of people having shared struggles. So just thanks for opening up. Thanks for being here.
Can I ask you a question, Kathy?
Greg, let me close can I close the archive, and then we'll hold that question off. I'm feeling guided to turn it off for the YouTube. We have just covered several powerful topics, and we've had several courageous. But let me on this, Kathy. That's how I emerged. I actually, Kathy, I was a hopeless case. I mean, so it's perfect that you and I got connected. I mean, you were on it for 3 decades. I was on it for almost 3 decades. And I popped. You don't hear this in those benzo withdrawal, Facebook. You don't hear about somebody who just pops. I mean, it's not quite like that, but I gotta get this wrapped up really quick. And Kathy, I'm joining you for your pop. And I've got to end this on one final note, that something is not going terribly wrong. We got to make some eye contact here. Something is going terribly right. Okay. It's Kenneth Price, and this is Sunday, March 26th, and this is our 70th Sunday morning Zoom call for psychiatricsobriety.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave your comments below. Visit the website, psychiatricsobriety.com. But even more important, please join us at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday mornings. Folks, we're not here to heal. We're here to actually procure a miracle. I never healed. I popped out by the grace of God, and I found the miracle. Folks, you don't want to heal, because if you heal, you just go back and you build a better self. If you heal, you just got to get your old life back, and you got to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. Nobody wants that. We want to pop, and I get the privilege and the honor to host this every. Sometimes we talk about a lot of spiritual, we talk about New Age, but when I meet somebody who really believes, and when I meet somebody like Kathy, it's beautiful. That's really that painful. I get to. I've said enough. Leave your comments below. Visit us. Visit my website, and please join us at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday mornings. God bless and